Hey folks, it's Keith, Victor Echo 3, Sierra Victor Quebec, back today with part 3 of your, really what I keep calling your CW or Morse code journey. So part 1 looked at what do you do prior to actually studying Morse code, what procedures should you do, what should you check for, and so on. Part 2 looked at the actual courses that you're taking and how to handle some of the issues that come up. Part 3 is going to look at now you're on the air. What now? So if you're like most people and you're on the air, you made your first few contacts, and for many of you, it's going to be very discouraging because we have this sense, quite wrong actually, that all of this studying, once you're on the air, everything comes together, everything's beautiful, and away you go. You're a Morse code operator. The reality is, it's a little bit rougher than that. I'm going to say your first few contacts, how many? I don't know. 5, 10, 15, whatever. Everyone's different. Many of those contacts are going to be pretty rough. You're going to be very discouraged because you made so many mistakes. Many of you will be absolutely terrified to sit there and answer somebody's call. But if you keep doing it, and if you look at every experience as a learning experience, not as a negative, think of it as a positive. Yes, you went on and you blew your call sign or you screwed up the RST, whatever. It's a learning experience because now you know what you should do and you'll watch for it and you'll build on it. So treat everything, even the very bad calls where everything went wrong, treat it as a learning experience, not as a negative. Now, I find a couple of issues that bother people. Number one, you don't ever have to call CQ. All right, this scares a lot of people. Going out, CQ, do whatever your call sign is, and you have no clue who's going to come back and answer you, and you're all worried about how do you get the call signs, what if you blow the call sign, and so on and so forth. So a lot of people don't call CQ. I mean, in single sideband, I don't ever recall calling CQ. All right, and like I say, I spoke to 120 plus countries confirmed. CW is much the same way. You don't have to call CQ. You can answer them. And certainly at the beginning, that's probably what the vast majority of you are going to do. You'll be answering CQ calls. Now, almost every organization has some type of script or whatever that they want you to follow, process to follow. In other words, if you're doing, say, POTA, what information does POTA need? Well, they need the RST in your state, province, or country abbreviation. Pretty simple. Put it down. Make a cheat sheet. Put it down so you can, in those moments when you have brain freeze, you can just glance over. And there it is. There's mine for POTA. SKCC. Yeah, I got one for SKCC as well. And they simply sit on a stand beside me so that in those moments when, oh my goodness, I can't remember what I'm supposed to do next, I glance over, there it is, and just pick up where you were and keep sending. It's a little bit of extra security for you, but it gives you that confidence to go forward. So don't even worry about it. If you hunt POTA all the time, does this mean you have to go sit in a park and activate and do all that type of stuff? Not at all if you don't want to. You can hunt parks in Morse code all day, and it's a lot of fun, and I do. And I don't know how many I've got at this point, but I'm approaching the 1,000 park mark, of which probably I'm going to say 25% are probably in Morse code. So you don't have to call CQ. You can answer CQs. Down the road, you may want to try it. You may want to go into an event. Maybe it's one of these QSO parties, something simple, and call CQ for a few minutes. You may want to find a contest. That's a very easy one, and go in that. You can go into the K1USN, the SST, and call CQ there. There's different ways of approaching it, but you don't need to call CQ at the beginning. Build up your confidence, build up your receiving skills, build up your sending skills. Go ahead and try it for a little bit. Nothing wrong with that. Another choice that you're going to make is, do you continue with classes? In other words, take more advanced classes. That's an option which many organizations will give you. And even if you're going on your own, whatever website you're using, you can probably do some more advanced work with them, changing your character speed, changing your word speed, trying to do groups of letters, anything, just look at your website and see what it offers. So that's one of the choices you have to make. And the other is, do you forget about that for a while and just do your own thing? And it's a very personal choice. Now, I would say to a certain extent, I just did my own thing. So I opted to go and do my own thing. But I still use that practice page that the organization gave me. I look for more advanced exercises that I can do. And very often, I'm going to say not every day of the week, but I'm going to say 3-4 times a week, I sit down and I do anywhere from an hour to 45 minutes of practice on more advanced items. Maybe, Morse code abbreviations, maybe words, maybe, copying sentences. You can still practice. You don't have to stop doing that just because you're on the air. So keep it simple, but don't forget, you're always learning. You will learn every contact you make. You'll learn something. Every exercise you do now is suddenly more important because you can see why you're doing that exercise or that practice page. You can see why, because it's probably something you've run into when you're on the air. So don't stop. Still do some practice. And yes, put the on air time in. It's absolutely crucial to get the on air time in because the longer you're on, the more often you're on, the more contacts you make, the more confidence you get. Your receiving ability, your copying ability goes way up. And yes, your speed will go up as well. For those who are worried about speed, you will also be able to send and copy at higher speeds and so on. So don't just walk away from the practice. Keep doing it whilst you're making contacts on the air. Also, remember that when you're looking for events or activities, whatever you want to call it, where you're going to be able to practice Morse code and maybe hear people at a slightly slower speed, there are a lot of QRP Morse code events, quite a few of them. And you could always, again, check them out, see what they require in the exchange, and go hunt QRP stations. You may even want to turn your own radio down to 5 watts as well. So there's lots of activities you can do which are fun, which are interesting. It's up to you to have a little bit of initiative and get out there and try some of these things. Now, one area where you can go to look for contests, events, and so on, probably one of the best sites I've ever found, WA7BNM, and he puts out a contest page which is updated all the time. Absolutely fabulous page. It will give you every event that's happening every day of the week pretty well. So you can look for ones that are Morse code. And if you click on the links he has to the events, he'll take you to a page where it tells you, what information do you need to send to them? What information do you need to copy? As is the Reverse Beacon Network, either the main page or the club page. And I've got videos on both. You can look them up, which shows you how to use them and how to find people who are members of different organizations, clubs, and so on. Because then you will know the exchange, you know what they're looking for. You have the frequency, you have their words per minute. You can dial them in and see if you can hear them on your radio. And if so, you can listen to their exchanges that they do with people. Get yourself, get your confidence up a little bit, and then try and contact them. Easy enough to do. Another thing that worries people is rag chewing. Oh my goodness, what happens if somebody wants to rag chew? Now, I would say at the beginning, because that's not your aim, you're looking for people to contact, maybe, exchange a membership number if you're in FIS or the SKCC or whatever. So you're not worried about rag chewing because the people you're contacting aren't planning to rag chew. Now, down the road, you may find you get caught. I did a couple of times where we did all of that. We exchanged all the information we needed. And then the other operator decided he wanted to go a bit further and he would send me his radio, his antenna, and so on. So after I got caught a couple of times doing that, and I say caught, but it was sort of fun, in a fun way, let's put it that way, I simply made a cheat sheet. So now when I do get an operator that wants to expand beyond the basic, the basic information, I've got it. It's up on the wall behind my computer. I just got to look up. I have all the information I need to send to that person. Right? Cheat sheets are a wonderful thing when you first get into Morse code. Now, I will say, the rag chewing, it may very well happen. In some cases, it's just sort of a natural flow out of a conversation. I did one conversation, I'm going to say at this point, about 2 weeks ago. We were going back and forth for well over an hour. And it was so much fun. I actually really enjoyed it. And yeah, I did a lot of copying and a lot of writing, and not as much head copy as I would have thought. Wrote a lot of information down, the basic information, and we just went back and forth. And after the first 5 or 10 minutes and my nerves settled down, suddenly it was a lot of fun. And I really got into it and I enjoyed it. And now I don't mind. If someone wants to have a longer conversation, I'm very happy to do so. So, don't worry about rag chewing. It may happen, it may not happen. Makes no difference. All right. You can always prepare yourself for it, but sit back, relax, go with the flow. It's a lot about what it's all about. One of the issues to be aware of when you're doing, especially your first, I'm going to say, first couple of dozen contacts, watch for key fright. And I have a video on key fright. But key fright is basically you can hear somebody, you can copy someone really clear, and you should contact them, and you hold back and you don't. And you come up with all sorts of excuses. No, the band's too noisy. I'm not sure he'll hear me, blah, blah, blah. That's really key fright. And I'm someone who suffered from that really badly. Certainly when I first took it, 35 years ago. And even this time round, I'm a person who deals with key fright. You may be too. And that's where that one contact a day came in as well. Because I look at that every day and I see one contact per day, great big letters, right behind my computer. And the number of days when I just sit down to work, not do ham radio, and I'm looking at that, and come hell or high water, I'm going to make that contact. All right. So it was a way to get me through some of the key fright, was that I had to make at least one contact that day. And I still do. Now we're talking, year and a half, 2 years later. I still look at that and I still try every day to make that one contact. And it's very rare that I don't make a contact per day. And once I've got one under my belt, then it's, let's go get a couple more. Little things you can do to make sure that you are focused, you are progressing, and that you're getting better, but you're also having fun. That is a key factor in all of this. So now that you're on the air and you've gotten over everything and you're having fun and you're starting to do it, you will find your interest will expand. Suddenly, boy, for the person who never wanted to have more than one Morse code key, how many do you have? All right. This is where we get into wanting to learn more, do more, try out different Morse code keys, buy different Morse code keys or paddles if you're into the paddle side of it. And one of the things you can do as you go forward is start to experiment. So if you're using a paddle, that's great. Pick up your speed, change things around a bit. If you're doing a straight key, check out the bugs and the cooties because they go a lot faster. So your horizons and your interest in Morse code and anything connected to Morse code start to expand. Suddenly antennas become interesting, right? Especially if you decide you want to experiment with QRP. This is something I'm doing now. I enjoy doing low power QRP and single sideband. I had a lot of fun with that. So now I'm starting to do more and more of it in Morse code, 5 watts. And I'm always surprised at how far I can get out. So your interests expand, your abilities improve, you're on the way to becoming a really good Morse code operator. So, like I say, things are never perfect when you start, nor should they be. Everything is a learning experience, and you're on a path where you're going to learn an awful lot over the next few years. And you also are going to have an awful lot of fun. Enjoy your Morse code journey. Practice, practice, practice as well. Get on the air as often as you can. Do as many events as you can. And above all, have fun. It's Keith, Victor Echo 3, Sierra, Victor, Quebec, the Shaky Key. Have fun with your Morse code journey. 73.